Conquerors Haki is becoming a slight problem. Conquerors Haki in the fusion has become confusing to the point where every week people are battling whether or not a character is using advanced Conquerors Haki, and it's specifically with this latest arc known as Egghead Island. It goes as far back as the Garp versus Aokiji stuff, where everybody was debating whether Garp or whether Aokiji was using advanced Conquerors Haki, and then right after that we were debating if Kobe is using advanced Conquerors Haki, and now we come to the present day, and specifically in this video I want to talk about Luffy and more particularly Zoro and their whole situation with using advanced Conquerors Haki. It's gotten to the point where some people came to the conclusion that Conquerors Haki lightning doesn't have to be shown for someone to be using it. I don't think I 100% agree with it, but I can understand completely what they mean. When Conquerors Haki was first explained to us by Kaido, we came to the understanding that you can infuse yourself with Conquerors Haki and weaponize it in battle. And the biggest indication of someone using it was highly emphasized thick, usually large streaks of black lightning. Some major examples were Roger and Whitebeard's clash, obviously with Shanks, Luffy himself, Garp recently, and Kaido. When this was first introduced, that's what indicated to us if a character was using the ability or not. In the latest chapter, we see Zoro activate King of Hell mode. This is the power that Zoro obtained against King to defeat him, where he unlocked advanced Conquerors Haki. But the problem is there's people trying to understand whether this is ultimate Haki on Zoro's sword in this panel right here, or is it advanced Conquerors Haki. The lightning is very minuscule in this panel that we see Zoro fighting Lucci, and we know that minuscule tiny black lightning is a way of showing ultimate Haki as well, which is why we can never come to the conclusion that black lightning equals Conquerors Haki. We see characters like Kobe, Katakuri, Luffy and Whole Cake Island, Sabo all have this tiny Haki around their fist, but why shouldn't that be the case with Zoro? Why shouldn't that be ultimate Haki? It clearly doesn't look like very thick and potent lightning that indicates Conquerors Haki. It's not that simple. Some people say he's only using the smoke or hellfire when we don't see black lightning. He chooses whether or not to use advanced Conquerors Haki when he's in this mode. Well, its default mode would particularly be just this mode right here where he has smoke on his swords, which I don't 100% agree with. When Zoro first displayed Conquerors Haki when he knocked out Fodder, it's apparent to note that when he knocked them out, the panel before that he didn't have any lightning surrounding him, but yet they still got knocked out by Conquerors Haki. But some people may make the argument that when he activated the black lightning on his swords off screen, in between these two panels right here, that's why they got knocked out. He activated it right before then. But let's look at the next panel between them. We cut back to King versus Zoro and we see black lightning in the panel above the fighting, indicating that Zoro is using advanced Conquerors Haki. Then we cut to the panel below of Zoro hitting King, but we don't see any black lightning at all. We only see smoke on Zoro's swords. We know that advanced Conquerors Haki was used due to the previous panel right above them. We would have to make the assumption that the second Zoro hit King, he deactivated the Conquerors Haki on his swords, which would be wild to assume, which don't make no sense, since we've seen in other moments that Zoro kept his lightning on after he attacked King with his final attack. So it's either Oda didn't draw the lightning in this panel, or that black lightning that was seen earlier before we actually seen Zoro hit King wasn't Conquerors Haki, which doesn't make sense either. We cut to Zoro's speech about him saying he doesn't have much time. If we keep dragging this out, the sword would kill him. If we remember, Zoro said if he goes all out with his Haki, it would kill him. So that's what he's referring to when he says he doesn't have much time. If Zoro in this panel, where there's just smoke, no black lightning, is saying he doesn't have much time, he could die, doesn't that mean he's using Conquerors Haki, since that's what he said would kill him? If he doesn't have it activated like you guys said, and it's just fire, how is he running out of time? What is killing him in that moment? So my point in all this is that there's reasons to assume he's using Conquerors Haki when we see smoke all over his three swords. Not just Enma, by the way, because there's some people that are showing Enma with the same smoke before he unlocked advanced Conquerors Haki. That was Enma wilding out, and it was only on Enma. Then what I'm also confused about is that when Oda is showing this minuscule lightning on Zoro's swords alongside the smoke, it resembles ultimate Haki way more, and it does not look like advanced Conquerors Haki at all. So what the hell is that? Like, why? Why is he making this so confusing? Moving on from that, my next problem is with Luffy not using it in situations he should. Now this is a me thing probably, so I'm not trying to say this is a problem in the series. This is probably something only I give a fuck about. We come to Egghead and Luffy and the gang get encountered by Seraphim who are practically invincible. Luffy's first instinct when attacking these Seraphims is to hold back tremendously. But what I don't understand is, why the hell does Luffy not attempt to use his strongest ability if he was attempting to damage them several times repeatedly with nothing happening? If he sees that it's not working, why not try giving it a Conquerors Haki coding punch? Especially when Luffy said these guys are as tough as Kaido. Kaido, who Luffy himself was piecing up because of advanced Conquerors Haki. So why wouldn't he attempt the ability that worked on Kaido that he's comparing them to? See what I mean? Zoro goes to mention that they are practically invincible with their flames on. But what's interesting about this with Zoro as well is that this guy actually fought a Lunarian the arc before, and that's how he knows this information. In that fight, Zoro implied himself that King was afraid of getting hit by Zoro's advanced Conquerors Haki attacks even with his flames on. So why does Zoro not attempt to hit one of the Seraphims with advanced Conquerors Haki? I find it very strange how Oda refrained both of them from using that ability against the Seraphim and off-screen the battles. Similar with Big Mom and Wano. She possessed the ability and it could have helped her out a ton. There was a specific moment where Law was forcefully drilling his sword through Big Mom and she tried to shake him off by using Armin Haki only. Like, what? This is the same Big Mom we know who can infuse her fists with Conquerors Haki, but chooses to use a weaker version of Haki even though her life was on the line. I kind of feel like Oda decides to pick and choose whether to make a character use his ability when it's convenient. Because when we cut to Luffy versus Kizaru, I want to remind you guys that Luffy acknowledges Kizaru's presence and his strength to the point where he was sweating and looked like he was fearful of Kizaru. I'm not saying he is, just looked like it. And then alright, he knows he's a strong dude. He's seen Kizaru before. He ends up kicking Kizaru with what looks like Conquerors Haki. But then after looking at it a little bit more and understanding Kizaru can't be blocking a Conquerors Haki kick with his basic hands with no Haki, and on top of that the lightning isn't as thick and potent to be Conquerors Haki lightning, why the fuck is Oda like trying to fake us out here? Because Luffy should be taking this guy pretty seriously, and on top of that, why is he holding back? Luffy ends up fighting Kizaru, he's holding back, he ends up getting bodied in Snake Man, and then he ends up going Gear 5. In these 2 chapters that this fight has been going on, Luffy has not been winning. Kizaru has not necessarily been winning, but Kizaru hasn't been losing either. It's not like a 50-50 with Kizaru potentially having the slight edge. We see that Kizaru is trying to pack up Vegapunk this chapter too. That's what he's constantly trying to do. I just don't see how this isn't a scenario where he uses the advanced Conquerors Haki. This guy's trying to pack your homies, and you're clearly not beating him right now. What's stopping you from using it? And don't tell me it's because Luffy likes to hold back in the beginning against his enemies, which he does do sometimes, but he's already done that with Kizaru, and he got punished for it. And on top of that, Kizaru's not even fully trying to fight this guy, he's trying to kill his homies. So people who are trying to kill your homies, Luffy, and on top of that, you use the weaker form that didn't work, and on top of that, you're in Gear 5, and you're not necessarily winning this fight right now, why wouldn't you use advanced Conquerors Haki? Why is it being saved? And also, don't say it's because he wants to conserve energy, because Gear 5 is more taxing on his body than Conquerors Haki is, and we've seen that multiple times, even in this arc against Rob Lucci. So I'm just confused. Honestly, I think Oda is just saving us so that Luffy has another way of dealing with a stronger version of Kizaru, because Kizaru hasn't went all out, so Luffy's gonna have a way to combat Kizaru who takes it another level potentially. That's what I'm thinking. So in conclusion, people already suffered from the fact that they couldn't distinguish who was using advanced Conquerors Haki and who wasn't in some fights. Now there's going to be a problem like I just described, with Oda picking and choosing when to use Conquerors Haki for the sake of the plot, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because we know in a story like One Piece what matters the most is the actual story, but it's just the fact that advanced Conquerors Haki is just such an important thing, and just such an important ability in the fight that can change the entire perception of how a fight would go, and it can determine whether a character is being serious or not, and can determine the tension of a scenario or a fight. So I think this is going to be a recurring thing we see in the future of One Piece. We already seen a lot of it in the past, even in Wano with Big Mom, where a character should be using this ability but just won't, because that's not what the plot needs them to do. So yeah guys, that's pretty much all I want to talk about. There's just some recurring patterns within how Oda goes about this ability, regarding if we can actually tell if someone's using it or not, because that problem seems to happen frequently, and on top of that, some people not using it when they should. There's a lot of patterns that I think are probably going to continue as the series goes on, so let me know what you guys think down below. That's it. Have a wonderful day guys. Catch you guys next video. Peace.